From the New York Times, it's The Headlines. I'm Tracy Mumford. Today's Tuesday, March 4th. Here's what we're covering. Just after midnight, the sweeping new tariffs that President Trump has been threatening against America's largest trading partners kicked in. There's now a new 25% surcharge on products from Canada and Mexico, and an extra 10% on goods from China, on top of existing tariffs. President Trump had been framing the tariffs as a national security issue, claiming that Canada and Mexico in particular weren't doing enough to stop migrants and fentanyl from coming into the U.S. Those countries have spent weeks scrambling to show Trump that they were stepping up enforcement. But yesterday, hours before the tariffs started, Trump seemed to move the goalposts.
So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs.
He suggested that the only way out of the surcharges would be for auto companies and other manufacturers to relocate to the U.S.
I would just say this to people in Canada or Mexico, if they're going to build car plants, the people that are doing them are much better off building here because we have the market. We're the market where they sell the most.
The tariffs are already sending shockwaves through the economy. The stock market had its biggest drop-off of the year when it became clear they were about to take effect. And economists say Americans will probably see higher prices on a wide range of products. The first place they're going to feel it is the grocery store. Much of the fresh produce in the U.S., everything from tomatoes to avocados, is imported from Mexico. Prices could start to climb in the next few weeks. Beef, grain, and maple syrup from Canada will also likely get more expensive. And over time, prices could also go up on cars, toys, smartphones, and a whole range of consumer goods. In response to Trump's tariffs, Canada immediately slapped its own surcharges on American imports, and China also moved quickly to retaliate, putting tariffs on American food and agricultural products and blocking a number of American companies from doing business in China. In another major move from the Trump administration, the president temporarily suspended all U.S. military aid to Ukraine, 3 days after he berated Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office. Officials say the suspension will be in place until Trump determines that Ukraine has made a good faith commitment to peace negotiations with Russia. The order affects more than $1 billion in arms and ammunition that were on order or even already en route. Analysts say Ukraine can keep its war effort going for weeks, even a few months, without U.S. support. It did that last year when Republicans in Congress temporarily blocked assistance. But the cracks did start to show. Without well-stocked air defense systems, more Russian missiles got through, hitting cities and power plants. And without enough supplies on the front lines, Ukrainian commanders told the Times they had to ration ammunition. Effectively, Trump's new pause is an ultimatum for Zelensky. Either get on board with ceasefire terms that Trump dictates, or prepare to face larger battlefield losses without U.S. support. In the meantime, analysts say the pause will help Russian President Vladimir Putin, whose troops could make gains against a weakened Ukraine. On the heels of his aid freeze and the new tariffs, President Trump will give his first big address to a joint session of Congress tonight. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern, and it'll be his largest televised event since he returned to office. Presidents usually use this moment to lay out their plans for their time in the White House. Trump's expected to tick through his work on immigration, spending cuts, and a host of executive orders. Many Democratic lawmakers say they plan to protest Trump's actions so far by inviting fired federal workers as their guests to the speech. The Times will have live coverage of Trump's comments at nytimes.com.
What New York set out to create was a program that could be a national model to bring in people that they once targeted for selling marijuana or growing it and help them to become successful business owners in this newly legal industry. But it failed pretty spectacularly.
Ashley Southall covers cannabis legalization for The Times. She's been reporting on the rise and fall of an ambitious program in New York State that the governor once said would, quote, right historical wrongs. After recreational cannabis was legalized there in 2021, The state backed a $200 million fund to give people who'd been prosecuted for drug offenses a leg up in the new market. It was supposed to launch 150 small cannabis shops, providing property and loans. Only 22 have gone up, and Ashley says many of the participants in the program told her they feel they've been caught in a debt trap.
One of the people I talked to was Roland Connor, who was the first person to open a dispensary under this program. And what he described was a program that was one in which he had very little control.
Connor and others told Ashley that the loans they got from the fund were so tightly restricted, they had almost no say in how their stores were designed and built, and no oversight of construction costs. That effectively handcuffed them as they were trying to compete with a flood of new illicit cannabis shops that started popping up across the state. For his part, Connor ended up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt.
So you have a guy like Connor who has every reason to be skeptical of the government because he has been prosecuted for selling marijuana. But he casts that aside and decides to take the government up on its promise of first dibs on a windfall from legalization. And he ends up facing financial ruin. It got so bad for him that at one point he was starting to wonder if this whole program was smoke and mirrors.
In response to questions from the Times, a publicist for the fund said criticism of the program was, quote, absurd, claiming it had given opportunities to people other lenders wouldn't have taken a chance on. Recently, Connor and other participants in the program asked the governor to shut the program down altogether and refinance their debt. And finally,
who's the sweatiest person on the rugby team?
Let me think.
Hello?
A lot of people who first saw Ilona Maher on social media had never watched a rugby match. But the American athlete and TikTok favorite has been giving the sport a bump. It started during this summer's Olympics when Maher shared a lot of videos of giant croissants, but also footage of her on the field, helping Team USA take the bronze.
Stunning result from the United States!
Since then, she's built a massive following, 8 million people and counting, with her mix of the goofy and the confessional, lip-syncing to the Kardashians, and also talking body positivity.
I have cellulite everywhere. It is completely normal, completely natural. It does not take away from your athletic ability.
This season, she took her newfound fame to England, playing for the Bristol Bears in the country's top women's rugby league.
And here is Ilona Maher. Oh, she's going to do it! It is quite simply marvelous.
She just wrapped her stint with the Bears this past weekend, and her presence was transformative. Team merchandise sales went through the roof. They had record attendance and even had to temporarily move stadiums from a 2,000-seat venue to one with 27,000 seats. Overall, it was a major boost for a league where many of the players have to work other jobs to support themselves. And Maher herself said she hopes the momentum behind the sport will continue to build.
Women's rugby is changing, and it's really, I think, making the world and people a better place. I don't know what I'm saying, but please keep coming out and supporting and fill these seats.
Maher is planning to be back in England this summer, though in an American jersey, for the Women's Rugby World Cup. Those are the headlines. Today on The Daily, the Department of Government Efficiency claims it's cut tens of billions of dollars in wasteful spending so far. A look at how that math does not add up. That's next in the New York Times audio app. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Tracy Mumford. We'll be back tomorrow.